All right, guys, you are finally inside the making of The Uncomfortable Truth, and obviously I have
Dr. Latasha Blanton.
and this is going to be an amazing video because we're going to talk about, why we decided to make it. So matter of fact, let's just talk about that. Why we decided to make a documentary. Well, first of all, at least from my perspective, we have to tell our story, and they're not going to tell our story for us. So I just decided that, hey, I think we should just tell our story. What do you think?
I mean, like you said, there's not very many things out there that even document our stories as African Americans, normal African Americans, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things out there that talk about, African Americans coming to South Africa, but there's never really a conversation between the two. So I think that's why it was important that we did what we did.
Okay. And I think we're good candidates simply because, we spent a lot of time in America growing up, obviously. And then before we moved here, we actually spent a lot of time in South Africa, probably more than most, just trying to and we came at that point just to try to get to know South Africa for the most part. And I think we were pretty successful over that time.
I think we were successful, and I think that the reason why we were was because our main goal was not to come here and be Americans. We came so that we could learn the culture, get immersed into how they do things, and we learned that by making friends. We made a lot of friends, and just talking to them, having normal conversations, talking about pros and cons and likes and dislikes, and honestly just getting to know them and their cultures. Yeah,
I think we found out that at some point we were basically all the same and so forth. The debate can go back and forth, and that's another reason why we made this documentary, because we're going to have, Americans that are coming here for the first time. And then we're going to have people who's been here a couple extra times than most people. And then, of course, we're going to bring in some Africans. And we're going to have that conversation, on camera, so we can start that conversation. And this conversation shouldn't end when the camera stops rolling. It should end when we're waking up one day and it's no big deal to see an African living beside you, or an African American, or living beside each other, or anyone in the diaspora, because it's really for the entire diaspora.
It's for the entire diaspora as a means to say, look, we're not that different. Have the conversation, see where you guys can meet in the middle, because what you'll see in the documentary is there are a lot of Africans that feel some kind of way about our absence here in South Africa. And I think that perspective is one that we need, because we never think, and we're never really told that they want us here. We're always told the exact opposite. So this conversation sheds light on the truth of why we should be visiting Africa, the continent, and South Africa. And it also sheds light on why they feel it's important for us to be here, and gives us an opportunity to say, maybe we should make the trek to come to the continent.
Yeah, because it's easier for us as African Americans, simply because we have the right passport. We can just come. South Africa doesn't put up any restrictions. You can come for 90 days. They don't require you to have additional shots, anything like that. But besides all of that, this production, we actually used a local company here in South Africa because we felt it was appropriate. It's called Rise Up Productions, and it's owned by a young black lady, a black female. And how did we run across her again?
My memory's a little bit shot, but I'm pretty sure.
Is,
we were actually at another event that was being hosted by one of the government agencies here in South Africa. And we saw her kind of doing her thing, so we decided to stop and talk to her, find out more about who she was, what her company did. And we learned that they were local right here in Johannesburg, and it made sense for us to say, hey, if we're going to do something, at least let's support a local black-owned business. And it just happened to be a female black-owned business, which is awesome. And she runs a great what's the word I'm looking for?
A video production company.
Yeah, she runs a great production company, so she's good at what she does. And we've used her before we picked her on the documentary. and she did an amazing job with the work that she's done for us. So we found her with that.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that she does actual productions for SABC television stations here in South Africa. She has a running schedule, so she got producers running around, she has everybody running around doing things, but she took the time because she knew what we was doing. We had, like Tasha mentioned, we had a small project. You guys have already seen it. Some of you guys on our YouTube channel. It's called, I think it's the eight reasons why you should come to South Africa.
Right. And
she made that for us, and we really, really appreciate it. So it was a no-brainer for us to reach out to her again and say, hey, we're trying to do this documentary. Could you assist? And then, of course, she came with her list of things. You need this, you need this, you need this, because this is our very first one.
She was so thorough. It was definitely a situation where, you had to fall in line.
Yeah, you just did what she said, and then she was like, I'm going to assign you a producer. And so she brought a producer, and of course she, managed him, but he managed us and said, this is what we need. And we were able to do that, which was good. And then the location that we shot it in, we were very fortunate to be able to reach out to one of our travel partners at Legacy Hotels and I think the Legacy Group.
Legacy Group.
And they were more than happy to open up for us. And so the scenes that you're going to see everybody in there, because ultimately we corral everybody into these spaces, is because of the legacy. And it was a good deal, and I think everybody that when they walked in, they said, "Wow, this is very, very nice."
Nice.
Yeah.
I think what was nice for me is that the Legacy Group understood what our goal was, and making sure that we tell our story. Number one, and number two, they did roll out the red carpet for us, so they made sure that things were on point for us to be able to take care of our South African counterparts and our African American travelers here for the first time. So they really made the experience special. I think that everybody left with something that they didn't have when they got here, and it really did change the way people think about other Africans, other South Africans, and the way they think about themselves in this future that Africa's gonna be on top of.
Yeah. So we really would, like you guys to enjoy the content. Like I said, we're very proud to be able to, for one, bring people from the diaspora that would have never come to Africa on any circumstance. And then for those same people to say, okay, I will shoot a video with you guys. I will do a documentary with you guys, because they had this experience. And at this point, now they're ready to tell their story. And we just happen to come along with a camera and whatnot. So there's a part, like I said, there's a part where you see the interviews. You might be one person, and you might see it might be two people doing an interview, and that's at the direction of the producers and the directors that they brought on board. And I think they did a fabulous job representing, us as African people. So anybody who sees this would say, wow, it's a very quality documentary. It looks very well, and it was well put together. So again, we appreciate that. It's the people who came on board and those who sat behind the camera and made sure we represented the Africans very well.
No, the team was definitely on point. I think I want to just give some accolades to the first-time travelers and even the second-time travelers, because they were so eager to tell their story as far as how they ended up in South Africa, what they used to think about South Africa, and they were happy to share that information with other South Africans, because it is a conversation that had never really been had before. And what other situation are you going to have an opportunity to talk to a South African and ask them the hard questions and vice versa? So it was definitely a very heartfelt, deep conversation that ultimately I'm hoping that we can continue in the future.
Yeah, I think we will. And I like the fact that some of the American travelers that came on board, some of them were family members as well. And I must tell you that, because they was like, oh, okay, I didn't know, and they were like, I'm so glad I brought this particular clothes. But they came, but they spoke their truth. They're like, hey, I'm 60 plus years old, and I don't have any real knowledge of Africa. You know, like one of our guests said, you know, I learned something in college. That's about it.
And college is late.
Yeah, and so forth. So it was a really good thing. I think you need to watch it for a lot of reasons. I'm honestly being, you know, I'm building off of Blacks Without Borders, a documentary that came out a long time ago. If you're interested, go to go to YouTube, Blacks Without Borders. You might see my documentary that I did about their documentary, or you might actually see theirs. Mm-hmm. But we're just building off of that. It's just time. Unfortunately, it's just time, and it happens to fall on our generation to pass the word about South Africa and Africa itself.
It's time for the story to be told, and we do hope that you guys will take the time, go to the website, mm-hmm. figure out a way to get it on the platform that works for you, because it is something that is starting the way for conversations to be had in the future, and we were just happy to be the ones to start that conversation.
Yeah. And now we're going to talk about the making, because I'm going to put a little bit of footage up so you can see behind the scenes where, you know, even though there was some things on camera, there was some things off camera that were discussed, you know, and these were just, what you call it? They just came up. These conversations just came up. It wasn't like, okay, let's talk about this. It was like, no, let's talk. And it's funny when you get Africans in the room, we can just talk. Without,
it's so easy.
Yeah, with no interference, with no anything. We could just talk. And that's what we're looking at us doing on a grander scale. So, but if you like Tasha said, if you really want to watch it, which I know you probably do, you can go to our channel, our website. You can watch the trailer, and that'll give you a little tidbits of what's going to happen, and then the bigger conversation around that. So we hope to obviously, you know, have you as viewers. And then, of course, for those who don't know, we do have a YouTube channel. It's called The Real South Africa.
It is called The Real
For some odd reason, it's just called The Real South Africa. And you can go there and watch some of our other content as well. But at this point, that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No, thank you guys for taking the time. And we do hope that you will do as we have asked you to do and go find the documentary, watch the trailer, share it, buy it, all those things, so that you can be a part of this new grassroots movement.
In those communities, we had our banks, we had our hospitals, we had our schools, we had all those, everything that you can survive off of. We had it.
Self-sufficient.
So, you know, but they, like you're saying, they tore that thing down. They tore it down, and then they passed laws where you couldn't rebuild that again.
Right.
Then they drew lines. Then they did. I mean, you can look back on history and see what they have done to cause where they're at now. Right. It's no, even when you get into politics, you can't tell me in 1867 or whatever it is, when we had more black politicians in the South.
Yeah.
In the South.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're talking about Texas,
South
Right,
Carolina.
South Carolina, all those.
Yeah.
We had more then.
Yeah.
And, you know, but they start, and then when Reconstruction came, they passed laws where they pushed all those out, and you couldn't do it again. Now you tell me, back in 1867, whatever that period, we had more black senators, in there.
Yes, we did.
And if you look at now, we have one black senator.
Yeah. And no black governors. I don't believe we have any black governors, do we?
Any black what?
Governors.
We have, I think we have one.
Is
Oh,
there?
I think it's one black governor, one black. But if, like I said, you look at the South,
I can't think of it.
is that,
I can't think of one.
it's,
Yeah.
you know,
We got mayors.
Yeah, we have
mayors
tons
got
of
plenty of
mayors.
mayors.
Right.
Why do you have plenty of mayors? Because mayors govern in those black communities.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why.
Right.
But if you start, when they gerrymander and start drawing those lines,
That's the governor.
so
Right.
there's no way in the world you have, the population is here and less population, but you have more senators, more whistle
Right.
names. So when it came to voting,
Right. Yeah.
You look at Mississippi, basically it's a black state, but they don't control it because of all of the lines drawn, you know, the gerrymandering or whatever. it
Yeah.
is. You know, cutting up the state so that these small white votes equal more than all of these black votes. And that's how they keep the power. And Georgia is the same thing.
the same thing.
Yeah, you know, everybody lives in Metro Atlanta. you got like towns with 500 people, 1,000 people, but their votes is the same as, you know, millions of people in a metro Atlanta.
And they don't care if you go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we want you all in one little
Yeah,
area.
yeah, so we can.
So
yeah.
all the other outskirts,
Right, yeah.
we can control,
Yeah.
and we don't, you know,
Every
we don't
county
need all
around
that.
Fulton County is
Yeah.
all white.
Yeah.
Every
Right,
county.
right.
Every
It is.
county surrounding.
It is.
For Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton are all pretty much black, or
Yeah.
majority black now. But the outer ones, the Paulding, Cobb, Cherokee, they keep those white.
Forsyth.
You know, and they have to have their votes. Like when MARTA wanted to expand, because MARTA was originally supposed to be like DC's metro system. Because if you notice, MARTA just has one line here and then one across. That's it. That's all for MARTA. It doesn't have anything through the middle. So they wanted to expand that. But the outer ones, they'll keep blocking that because they know that's going to bring prosperity to Fulton County, which a lot of us are there. Fulton and
Yeah,
DeKalb
that's
as
over
well.
there.
You know, so they keep blocking that. They also wanted to run a train to North Carolina, right to Charlotte. There was going to be a high-speed rail there.
But they need that.
Oh, for sure.
They
That's
wanted
a
to do
3-hour
that
drive.
years ago.
Sure.
No matter how you cut it.
Yes, yes. We
Yeah.
brought so much
Yeah.
commerce to our community.
Oh, there's so much
Yeah.
money.
But they
so
know
much money
that,
coming.
so they planned it out so that we can be minimal and they can maximize.
And the
what
reason
they
they're
do.
holding it hostage is because they won't turn over the revenue from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport to them, to the suburbs.
What do you think about all
Yeah,
this?
that's why they're doing
I mean, I have a question to ask.
Of course you do. We do too.
We do.
My question is, does anyone see the situation in America improving?
In what respect? Any
In
regard?
any way that benefits African Americans?
I'll say this, we've improved with our knowledge base, understanding what's happening,
Yeah.
and then coming together and trying to work together and traveling. I think those were some of the things that
Yes.
was kind of keeping us back, so we can see for ourselves. But you, like I told you before, you can have a home, but they're gonna discriminate against you with your home. If they don't get it from you, even with the mortgage, they'll get it from you with the taxes. You still have to pay taxes on that home
Yeah,
for the rest of your life.
forever.
Forever.
Right.
And it's a lot.
And it's a
It's a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
I
So
think-
they'll raise your taxes and they'll get you out that way, even if they can't get you out with the mortgage. I'm sorry.
Right. And I think you'll see pockets of improvement here and there, but as a whole, I think it's gonna be very difficult. They're
Yeah.
trying to block that in any way that they
And there's a lot of regression. Like you have some gains,
Yeah.
can. Right.
and then
Yeah.
they'll walk you back. And doesn't have to be a law. It could be like a what they call an ordinance,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
or just
Right.
some local.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, this is what we do here, and
Right.
then but it's always against
Against us.
what we
Yeah.
do.
Always,
Yeah.
always.
Well, they're gonna give you, the gains that we we get, it's not gonna be, and they don't mind us having certain gains.
Right.
Because it doesn't hurt them.
Right.
But if our gains intrude on anything for them, then they'll put a roadblock. I mean, that's,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Very
it's,
quickly.
it's always.
They'll cut that off.
So the power is in, and people keep saying, everybody, most time when the electoral time comes, everybody put a lot of attention on the presidency.
Right.
That's not where most of the damage comes
No.
from. It's local.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's where all the damage
It's the
comes from.
states, it's the
Yes.
governor. It
I
comes
think
down
they
from
look
the
at the
governor.
presidency, okay, we gain it. But if you don't pay attention to your local politics,
Yeah.
who passed those laws to, raise your taxes or your roads or your schools and everything else, that's where the damage comes from. And people a lot of times, we don't pay that any mind. We say, okay, that's not important. Yes, it is
Yes,
important.
it is. Well, they count on the ignorance to continue as well. Us not knowing about our politics and not knowing about the laws and how we're affected by them.
What would they say? Ignorance is not an excuse.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's
So,
not.
I mean, not today when you have so much technology
Right. I
to
agree.
go in there and challenge and other stuff. Stuff when, not telling
Tanzania a little bit better.
They're doing it in West Africa, so Gambia, those cows that eat trash. They just
I bet you
walk
that
free.
beef tastes great.
I'm kidding.
I would think that they distinguish between the ones that are just eating the grass and then the ones that they have.
The ones that are just eating for,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, I hope.
What else would they
Yeah.
feed the cows here? Lucky if they're not eating grass. What do they eat?
No, I don't want to say.
Okay.
But,
I don't want to scare people.
South Africa's got good meat.
Just not as good as Botswana.
Yeah, no. They still have a lot to do.
It's not as good as Botswana.
We still have, South Africa.
I know, right?
doing their meat. We still have work to do to get our meat.
To get proper meat.
Wow.
Look, I didn't want to go there, but South African cows are racist. They're grown by Afrikaans people. Come on.
That's a good one.
How you eat white
That
meat?
was funny. So technically the cow is white meat.
White meat. Come on.
Only you. Only you.
Oh my
Only you
goodness.
would say that. South African cow is white meat. Like what?
My parents, if I had a choice, I'd still eat.
Oh, gotcha. You had no choice.
I had no choice. Yeah. But now I have a choice, but my wife doesn't want to go. So
Oh, that was like
no.
let me let her really quick and let her say, no, that's not true.
Have you been back to visit many times? Or?
well,
He was there all the time until
The
COVID.
last time I was there was before lockdown.
Okay.
So I literally spent every week.
Really?
Yeah, so I just take a 4-hour drive.
Oh, so you
Is it
drive
only
there?
4 hours?
Yeah, just 4 hours.
That's why I drive, yeah.
Is that to the border or to Haparona, or is it just to where you live?
To my village. So
Okay.
Gaborone is like
Which
2.5
village are you
Yeah, that's not
hours.
far at all. Haparona, yeah.
Which village?
I'm from Muchudi.
Muchudi, oh. I've been to
Haparona's not
Cameroon,
far at all. People go just on the-
Pakalani.
Pakalani, I've been there. Yeah.
That's like,
So we need.
if you're in Gaborone, you're
Yeah,
about
yeah.
40 k's away
That's
from
another
it.
way to do it.
Okay.
It's like a 40-minute drive.
Sherry, you got the instructions, right? I tried to give you like step-by-step instructions, like, because it gets complicated. And then,
I'm a detail oriented.
yeah, I'm like, it gets very
That's an
detailed, and you gotta
Yeah.
do it all right. Get the appointment.
You caught that, huh?
I'll be starting today.
I still don't know what day it is. I keep thinking it's, what is it's Tuesday,
Today's the
right?
29th.
No, I know
Oh.
the day, like the number day. It
Yeah, so so it really, I think it really doesn't matter where you are. Wherever there are human beings, they will find something.
That's so true.
They'll find something that's just not right.
Well, I have a question for you as a young South African. Do you feel that your generation and the generations that have come after your parents have all kind of looked at the thing the way that you do? We don't really care about what this is set up, what culture this is within South Africa. How our differences have been made to be an important thing.
We
You guys
are
think you-
trying to get over it. I think my generation is facing what
don't think it's gonna
most
happen.
generations are facing across the
I don't
world.
think it's gonna happen.
Like millennials were trying to break away from the older generation.
Yeah.
Because the older generation, because you guys have money, you guys are the ones who hire us in jobs.
Right, true.
You guys are the ones who, so we
Okay.
don't have much independence.
Gotcha.
So we have to do what the elders want.
Yes.
So, but now I'm 29, going on 30. So I have to now think as an adult and make my own decisions and those type of things. But
Right.
cultures and norms make it very difficult.
That's true,
Make
and I
it
can
very
see why.
difficult.
Definitely,
Yeah.
because they hold the strings.
Yeah.
They control.
But it's the same everywhere, actually.
Yes.
I've noticed my generation, whether you're in America or anywhere else, you struggle.
Yes.
You,
I agree.
You are growing up. I think the most challenging thing is growing up in a world where heroes in your parents' generation are no longer heroes anymore. Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, all of
Right,
those.
right.
So these are people who you look up to, you used to
Right,
look up to,
right.
and say, when I grow up, I want to be like this person.
mhm.
But now, this person, there's a whole bunch of things you didn't know about them. What do you do about them? In South Africa, the most challenging thing is Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
Nelson Mandela's his legacy is going down. It's deteriorating.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fast.
Really?
And my generation, we don't understand it.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of like how I've noticed young African Americans perceive Martin Luther King and his generation, where you're like, yeah, we see you guys are celebrated, but we don't connect with you. We have our own priorities. We don't understand some of the decisions you made. We don't. Why did you do this? Why did it result in this? And that's where we are.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think the more we know about how the constructions have been created in time with Bill Cosby, you mentioned Bill Cosby and MLK, the system of white supremacy will set up people to use as puppets as long as they can be used. Martin Luther King, before he died, and the reason he died is because, was that?
He changed.
He changed, right. Right before he died, he discovered that he had been bamboozled. He's like, you know, I feel like I've led my people into a burning house and things aren't as they seemed. I was wrong. He admitted that he was wrong for wanting integration, that this is, you know, destroyed his people. And he was coming for his check, that reparations check that we're talking about right now. He was coming for that back when was that? In the 60s? He was coming for that, and this is why he was, you know, I can't get into too much, but.
I have an opinion on that.
Okay.
My opinion is the disconnect started when Du Bois was kicked out of the NAACP. I think when that happened, it's a historical fact that no one pays attention to, but it created two things. Because Du Bois then focused on Africa. He started teaching Pan-Africanism and all of those things, and then the NAACP went their own direction.
But you have to, yeah.
Bob was, you know, matter of fact, before he was, you know, he was in, what's the, I can't even think, that he got kicked out twice. He was running it.
Yeah.
And he was kicked out, and the last time he just said,
forget
left. You know, so it, not just Du Bois, it was just, you have so many of the, Malcolm X, they had different perspective. Everybody wanted, I think everybody wanted to get to the same place, but I think a lot of them had different perspective how they was going to get there, and how we want to get this for our people to do these. And like you're saying, you know, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King at the end, you know, they wanted the same thing, but they were going through one was by any means necessary, and the other one was a peaceful means. Well, you know, Malcolm X said, why are we trying to be peaceful when they're not being peaceful for us? Martin Luther King said, in order to do these things, we have to almost work our way in there in a peaceful manner. And
but we're not dealing with
that.
normal
so
people. We're dealing with barbarians.
Yeah, so you see at the end what, you know, so they did come together, and they did have meaningful communications, and so it was always, you know, different sides, but wanted the same thing.
You are filling my mind with so much information right now. For me, it's always, I like to look at patterns of how things happen within any black community. You mentioned Du Bois, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and in my mind it's running Steve Biko, Chris Hani, Robert Sobukwe. Those are the people that were not willing to be used to mislead the South African population. They were not willing. They lost their lives.
But like, I think sometimes, for me, I think it's hard because as a person, you are not aware where you are being led. You think you're fighting for your own people, not realizing the bigger. I mean, MLK, as you said, I don't think he willingly.
He didn't know.
Yeah,
I don't think he was aware.
But by the time he found out, he was a raging fire.
He was.
How
But yeah, so it's very exciting. It's overwhelmed at times, but it's good to know people who are in the.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us where to go.
And how old are you?
My oldest is 17, and he would like to go back to the United States to finish school. So we're in the process of deciding when, he is not he's a senior this coming year in high school. So he's not finished with high school yet. He will be going to college after that. So we're trying to establish residency somewhere, I guess, because he's just been getting back to the States. Even though we want to keep him here with us, he doesn't see the light yet. Right. He does not see the light yet. So, so we're gonna possibly be sending him back. Because I have another teenager who's 15, just now turned. Did they already finish? And then an 8-year-old. I guess that is. We have to get it. Oh, okay. We're gonna go. Okay, so we'll see you.
A lot of times, history is irrelevant to you, or it's not as important to you at that time. Not to
They do have to.
and also sometimes
Oh, they're doing it.
sometimes in Africa, those stuff happens. Those are the
Coming to Africa. They are so lucky.
They see, and I just look at you.
I know, you don't have to get rid of yourself.
Beyond. And not necessarily.
What baby?
And I'm not saying all.
100%. No, my youngest is 8.
He didn't drink up
So
all
They
his.
he's turning 9
And
in
the United
October.
States, we should almost the same because they from
No,
they have
I'm
this
enjoying life right now.
Not necessarily looking back.
You always enjoy
to
life.
see what-
No, I don't have
So
time to be.
in that case, I think we
Little ones, no,
you know,
I want to
around
travel, I want to, it's my turn. Yeah. Because we
and I just
started
think
early.
we have a lot to offer
We got
to each
married,
other.
I was trying to do the same thing.
It's not like you're saying. It's not a bad thing or whatever.
You
but
don't
it's
allow
just
them.
a good thing to know.
Yeah.
So look, we just.
Preferably only
I mean, in the United States, it's Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia.
We got
Yeah,
one dose.
Virginia's a state. Yes.
But yet,
Right next to Virginia, right next to DC.
everything. So when we left
Washington.
Washington, D.C.
for 6 months, we had to just in into some stuff we couldn't do.
Georgia's a state.
10.
Leaving that water.
Georgia is a state. DC is not a state.
What we're shown, don't go after.
Are we doing? You're not nervous, are you? This is one of my cameras I use. Yeah, for my stuff. And those videos y'all be seeing. This is it.
What brand is that?
It's a DJI. DJI.
Okay.
This thing does everything. It's a stabilizer. It does everything. I can record some crazy stuff. I can
It's
just.
like a little miniature robot.
It is. Yeah, I use it all the time.
Put it down. It'll just do
Yeah. It does
the work
pictures,
for you.
panoramas. It does everything.
Wow. So it's that tiny little thing from the
This is it, yeah. This is what I be using. And I got different lenses and different little tab. Like I got my polarized lens 4 because I don't need more than that right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So sometime in the video I be changing them, taking them off, changing them, and while I'm walking. And I have a little thing I use. Sometimes I do my little high rise stuff. People think I got a drone. I'm like, I don't have a drone.
See, now in your videos, I'm going to be like, I know that.
Yeah. So like coming in here, I would do I would come here and use this line, and then come across like that,
Oh, okay.
and then pull back. I'll pull back.
You got a little micro USB in the front where you connect that to the computer.
Yeah. I could do
the
charger too. It does everything.
Wow.
Yep. So I could do that, or I can do tons of things with this stuff. 'Cause I can make this thing do all kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.